Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Susan Valakis, and I'm the Training Development Coordinator at NOW, and as such, I bring you these webinars on the third Thursday of each month. If you've missed any of them, you can find replays on our website, nowfoods.com/webinars, or on our NOW YouTube channel. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please use the chat bubble on your screen, submit your question, and we will respond to you with an answer by email. And in today's 60-minute webinar, we welcome longtime industry veteran and NOW's Senior Education Manager, Neil Levin. Neil is a nationally board-certified clinical nutritionist with a diplomate in advanced nutritional laboratory assessment. In case you ever wondered what the DANLA stands for, there you go. He is a professional member of the International and American Associations of Clinical Nutritionists and also a member of the Scientific Council of the National Clinical Nutrition Certification Board. Neil also serves on the board of directors for MAHO, and on the home front, Neil provides a wealth of knowledge to our team when it comes to nutrition and dietary ingredients and formulations. And as always, Neil has some excellent information to share with us today, so please join me in welcoming Neil Levin. Welcome, Neil.
All right, thank you, Sue. Women's specialty formulas is the category we're going to be dealing with today. So without any further ado, so just a quick summary. A healthy diet is supposed to provide all of the nutrients a woman or anyone, frankly, needs to maintain good health throughout the life. That's easier said than done. There's many things that can interfere with that. Lifestyle choices and demands, health conditions, other factors can require greater intake of certain nutrients or botanicals, and some of them are tied into specific stages of life. So dietary supplements can play a key role in adapting nutrition for women's life stages. There are a number of reasons why people might need to take supplements even if they think they have a decent diet, because almost everyone has some kind of restrictions on their dietary choices. For me, it's being a vegetarian. For someone else, it might be keto or paleo or gluten-free or whatever. And every one of those diets introduces challenges in getting certain nutrients where supplementation can play a key role. So here are some of the main women's life stages: adolescence, childhood, young adulthood, childbearing years, perimenopause, which is defined as starting to lose the regularity of the menstrual cycles, menopause, which is defined as 1 year of no menstrual cycles. So perimenopause really covers what most people would call the menopause changes, and the mature woman who has some other challenges. So for adolescents, at some point they reach puberty and menses, and zinc supports the immune system and hormonal balance. Calcium, vitamins A and vitamin D are essential for skeletal structure. There are other nutrients here. This is not an exhaustive list, just examples. Vitamin K obviously is important for bone as well, and many other nutrients. There are weight concerns. Often teenage girls tend to go on poor diets, maybe younger kids too, because they have these ideas of what they think their body composition should be, and they're not always realistic. And supplements can bridge those gaps in a poor diet, just as they can in a good diet with certain restrictions. So once a woman reaches young adulthood, there's still emotional and mental development. It is said that the brain is not fully mature until about age 25, that the brain keeps developing and needs certain nutrients for that. DHA, the omega-3 fatty acid, is important for cognitive development. As I've said many times, the brain is mostly fat, and most of that fat is DHA. Folic acid or folate is essential for childbearing years as well. And there's also issues of hormonal balance during these childbearing years. Iodine you need for thyroid hormone production, but it does many more things. There are iodine receptors on the sex organs, for example, on immune cells as well. So iodine has wide-ranging effects in the body and is not solely related to thyroid hormone production. Folic acid and iron are important during childbearing years and also to prevent anemia. Omega-3 for mood support and immune response. And again, DHA becomes even more important during conception and pregnancy, and there's a double demand on it if someone is not quite 25 years old and the brain's still growing and developing and using DHA, but some of that DHA is being siphoned off to nourish baby in the body, the pregnancy. So that the demand could increase during this time. Then there's perimenopause, which is again that period when the periods are becoming irregular and stopping. And even for the first year after the menses stops, it is still considered perimenopause until that 1 year anniversary of no more periods. So the growth and development should be complete by then. Hormonal balance changes. This is typically in the mid 40s in terms of age, but it varies a lot woman to woman, and it depends on diet and genetics and other factors, environmental factors. So one of the key factors in perimenopause is the estrogen production declining. And when it declines, phytoestrogens, plant-based estrogens, become even more important for hormonal balance. And phytoestrogens are typically soybeans and other legumes. It's estimated, for example, that chickpeas might have half as much of the phytoestrogens as soybeans. So soybeans is known as the highest source, but not certainly the only source. Flax and red clover are a couple of other sources. Red clover is a legume. Flax is not, but flax also has phytoestrogens as well. There are challenges to mood. There are hot flashes, sleep disorders, etc. Dry skin is typically a concern during this period. The skeletal growth will plateau. That you might be building bone up to this point, but then when the estrogen declines, the maintenance of bone and the growth of bone tissue tends to decline. So that's a challenge as women age. And digestion becomes less effective. Stomach acid might decline either naturally or due to taking medications. Enzymes, probiotics, and fiber might be indicated to help balance the digestion and the diet at that point. And then at menopause. Even after menopause, when there's no more periods, no more menses cycles, the hormonal balance will continue to change. Estrogen can decline even more. Phytoestrogens become even more important. And women might also suffer from aches and pains, cognitive issues, bone retention issues, and cardiovascular issues. Maintaining healthy, flexible blood vessels becomes important. And vitamin K would be one of the factors in doing that, getting the calcium out of the bloodstream and into the bones and other tissues where it's needed. And then you have the mature woman. There's a focus on balanced nutrition and regular healthy meals, and this is often a problem. Women, especially if they're used to being a caretaker, when the kids are out of the house, if they're single or widowed, they might find that they're not eating regularly. And this can affect their ability to have good nutrition. A lot of people will graze when they're living alone. They'll eat little things during the day and not really eat meals and not focus on balancing their diet and their nutrition. So that is a factor. Institutionalized food could be of different quality as well. So if someone's in independent living, assisted living, or nursing facility where it's institutional food? Are they really getting balanced nutrition, focused on regular healthy meals? I know my mother's in a place and my sister are in places that provide meals, and it's difficult to get omega-3 if you're not eating fish. It's difficult to get fiber from a lot of these processed foods that they're serving. And so even if it seems to be a balanced nutrition, maybe it's not ideal for them. Protein to maintain muscles and neurotransmitters, hormones, enzymes. Vitamin D to compensate for reduced sun exposure, which is common in older people and institutionalized individuals as well. And so let's look at supplements that can help balance monthly cycles for the younger women. Chase tree has a berry, and the Latin name of the plant is Vitex agnus castus. And the berries contain substances called agnusides. And so this is a standardized chasteberry Vitex extract to support endocrine function. And we put a base in there of dong quai root, which is an herb that is often used by women. It's part of the traditional Oriental medicine catalog of products they use in their formulas. And Vitex is often used for symptoms of PMS, irritability, mood, headaches, breastfulness, bloating, water retention, swelling, and mild analgesic effects from that. In other words, if there's aches and pains related to the menstrual cycle. It tends to have less effect on women after menopause, though. And Female Balance is a combination formula that we offer. It contains a number of nutrients, a unique herbal support formula for women. We have wild yam, organic dong quai, chase tree berry, standardized, ginger root extract, and black cohosh extracts. And we've added some vitamin B6 in the coenzyme form, the P5P, or pyridoxal 5-phosphate, and the folate, which is in the methylfolate form, the 5-MTF, MTHF, I should say, which is a very well absorbed and functional form of folate. So it's a combination of a couple vitamins with some botanicals that help with women's cycles. So it's actually designed to support well-being before the beginning of a normal menstrual cycle, before the onset of menstruation. So we do not recommend taking it during the days of menstruation, and we do not recommend it for pregnant or nursing women. So those are a couple of restrictions on the use of the Female Balance. A woman would use it during their cycle and stop taking it during the actual menstruation. And again, stop taking it if they become pregnant. Vitamin B6, which is in the formula, according to the National Institutes of Health, says there's a potential effectiveness in alleviating mood-related symptoms of PMS, and they believe that's due to its role as a cofactor in synthesizing neurotransmitters within the body. So making the relaxing and calming neurotransmitters is something that vitamin B6 has a role in, as well as general amino acid metabolism and the production of substances from these proteins and amino acids. Now, folic acid supplementation is associated with reduced odds of short cycle length. In other words, it lowers the odds that these cycles will get off of the normal monthly cycle and become shortened and out of sync with nature. And the Mayo Clinic reports that heavy periods can lead to iron deficiency anemia. So in addition to supplementing iron, folic acid supplementation is recommended to help rebuild the red blood cells. And Donquai is in this formula as well for symptoms of PMS. In traditional Chinese medicine, it is included in herbal combinations that are addressing abnormal menstruation, suppressed menstrual flow, dysmenorrhea, which is painful menstruation, and uterine bleeding. It is not used for menopausal symptoms such as hot flashes, but it does tend to support healthy circulation. So Donquai and Vitex tend to be more for the younger women pre-menopause and not so much during perimenopause. So let's look at perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Now, soy isoflavones are in the formula, and they're selective estrogen receptor modulators. What that means in English is that they will fit estrogen receptors and satisfy them. So they will seem to provide estrogen, but they're very, very weak estrogens. They're estimated to be 1/1000th the strength of the natural estrogen that a woman would produce in her own body. So these very weak estrogens have weak estrogenic effects. They're not strong estrogens. In fact, they've studied this on men, soy isoflavones, and they really have no effect on androgens, the male hormones. So it's safe for men to use soy isoflavones and soy as well. That's been repeatedly shown in studies, and organizations such as American Cancer Society have also published on that as well. But because they fit the receptors, they satisfy the body to some extent when estrogen becomes low. So they help buffer levels of estrogen in the body. And they also, and this is not directly related to menopause or anything, but these estrogen receptor modulators like soy isoflavones and other phytoestrogens, plant estrogens, will block some of the estrogenic compounds that we want to avoid, such as pesticides. So, and plastics, these chemicals. So fitting receptor means these other things can't attach, whether it's a strong estrogen, which is sometimes contraindicated for some women, and it also blocks the estrogenic compounds and chemicals that are undesirable as well, so that they can't fit the receptors and cause havoc on our hormonal systems. There's also evidence that soy isoflavones can reduce bone resorption, in other words, the breakdown of bones, and help maintain the bone mass and the bone density. Soy isoflavones stimulate osteoblastic activity, the cells that actually produce bone cells themselves, through the promotion of insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1. And they also find increased levels of bone alkaline phosphatase, an enzyme that's a biomarker of bone formation, among perimenopausal women who are eating an isoflavone-rich soy protein diet. Normally, soy foods and soy proteins will contain isoflavones and be able to supply these types of benefits for women. And this is the soy isoflavone product. Of course, it's non-GMO, and it's standardized to total isoflavones, including genistein, which is the most commonly known, but there's actually 3 major isoflavones in soybeans. We also sell progesterone cream, and this is an item that is a gentle, fast-acting liposomal cream. It contains a nature-identical USP progesterone from wild yam, along with other effective balancing herbal extracts. The wild yam is a source of USP, nature-identical progesterone, only when it's manufactured in an industrial facility. It is not something where if you take wild yam by itself, that you can convert it into progesterone. That is only possible in a laboratory situation or a commercial production facility. So wild yam might have other benefits, but it does not convert to progesterone in the human body by itself. So you have to buy one that's already converted, and this is the nature identical progesterone, which is identical to the compound that you would manufacture in your own body as a woman. And men make progesterone too. Let's be honest here. But it is not progestin or the synthetic forms that are often used in hormone replacement therapy. We offer progesterone cream in both unscented and a calming lavender scent. We don't use artificial colors or preservatives, as always. And of course, it's quality tested. And we have a very nice packaging for this product. These are the two formulas, the scent-free and the calming lavender. And it's supplying 20 milligrams of progesterone per pump. And it's a metered pump bottle. There's actually a little like balloon in there where when you pump it, it adds more air to the balloon and pushes the liquid, the cream up in there. So it extends the shelf life because it keeps air and other contaminants out of the bottle and direct contact with the cream. So it reduces the need for preservatives. Often these kind of things need to be primed where you pump slowly 10 or 15 times until the cream starts coming out. And you only need about a pea-size amount of this cream to supply that 20 milligrams of progesterone, which is recommended to apply to fatty areas of the skin. The thighs, the buttocks, the belly, the upper arms would be some areas that would be appropriate. And twice a day is the typical recommendation. We also have another combination formula called menopause support. And of course, this is something specifically formulated for menopausal women. It's got organic dong quai, red raspberry leaf, chase tree extract, the Vitex again, standardized, red clover flowers, black cohosh standardized extract, soy isoflavones, wild yam, licorice, ginger, and 5-HTP to help with mood as well. So these are recommended potency of key ingredients for healthy response to natural changes during menopause. And I checked our reviews on this page, wondering how well it is regarded. There's 5 reviews on our webpage from verified purchasers, and they're all fairly recent. The overall rating is 5 stars. It's a perfect score. And there's 2 detailed reviews. One said it's a game changer that helped ease symptoms. The other said it works great. Her hot flashes went away within 2 weeks. Night sweats are much less frequent. And the product also helped her to sleep at night. So dong quai is in this for menopausal symptoms. There's frequency and severity of hot flashes, the number of night sweats, and sleep quality. And these are really perimenopausal symptoms, to be more accurate. After menopause, you wouldn't expect all these things. And red raspberry leaf has historical uses, reducing heavy menstrual bleeding and cramping, alleviating overall discomfort, and traditionally used for menstrual cramps or period pain. And it's believed that it's an effect raspberry leaf has on the uterine muscle. So it seems to have a beneficial effect there. Now, Vitex, that chase tree berry, as we showed it earlier in terms of menstrual cycles and PMS, but scores related to menopause, irritability, and vasomotor dysfunction were meaningfully diminished after intervening with Vitex in study. It's considered an inexpensive, effective, safe treatment with no side effects as a non-hormonal remedy, along with other therapy methods for menopausal complications. So that's the description in the Korean Journal of Family Medicine. Now, black cohosh is something that's frequently used for this as well. A meta-analysis of 22 studies in adults with menopause, they took black cohosh alone or in combination with other herbal remedies for 4 to 52 weeks. It improved overall menopausal symptoms, hot flashes, and somatic symptoms, sleep issues, and mood, but not anxiety or depression. So don't expect it to perform miracles or act like a drug. And red clover. Isoflavones found in red clover, soybeans, burritos could help reduce symptoms of menopause, such as hot flashes and night sweats, because of their estrogen-like effects from isoflavones, phytoestrogens. Also, subjective vaginal dryness and maturization value related to vaginal atrophy showed significant improvement with 80 milligram dose of red clover, and it may reduce frequency of hot flashes, especially in women with severe hot flashes 5 or more times per day. And this is something that there is enough in this formula to meet that amount. I think it's 100 milligrams in the serving of that. Here's the soy isoflavones. It was mentioned earlier in the context of PMS, but soy isoflavones or soy protein can help reduce the frequency and severity of menopausal hot flashes, but it seems to be a small effect. And there seems to be a beneficial effect on bone health in postmenopausal women again, but not necessarily a strong effect. And lastly, we're going to talk about urinary tract health. Cranberries are an abundant source of flavonoids and other active compounds, including proanthocyanins. They help maintain a clean waste stream. What do we mean by that? We're talking about substances that make the bladder and the urinary tract smoother and more slippery, so that it's harder for microbes to attach or particles to attach and form either blockades or things growing there. Biofilms is one of the terms they use for that. But keeping a slippery urinary tract means that the urine and the waste contained in the urine can flow out freely and is not able to encourage anything sticking to that surface that would inhibit the ability of the bladder to fully empty and would encourage bladder infections and things like that. So this is a physical property. It's not an antimicrobial property per se. And because these proanthocyanins are easily absorbed and bioavailable but excreted in the urine, they are able to provide this benefit to the body, which you would get from eating cranberries. Blueberries have much of the same property as well, by the way. They also have the similar proanthocyanins. So the proanthocyanins keep the urinary tract healthy. Now, D-mannose is a simple sugar that occurs naturally in certain plants, including cranberries. Only very small amounts of mannose are metabolized by the human body. Almost all of it is rapidly excreted into the urine, where it has similar effects as the proanthocyanins from cranberry, where it keeps the walls of the urinary tract, like the bladder and the tubing, smoother and less able to attract adherence of particles or microbes to it. So it's able to act as an elimination channel more efficiently, the way actually the body is supposed to do. So soluble waste products, water-soluble products that are being flushed out of the body through the urine, can flow more smoothly and carry any particles or microbes out to keep that area a little more sterile the way it's designed to be. And because insubstantial amounts are used by the body, it doesn't interfere with healthy blood sugar regulation. In other words, you don't metabolize enough to raise blood sugar and affect insulin and all that. So these are the D-mannose caps. And it's a naturally occurring simple sugar that the body utilizes to cleanse the urinary tract and maintain a healthy bladder lining. What's recommended is to take between 3 and 9 capsules daily, and it's recommended with water or unsweetened juice, such as unsweetened cranberry juice. And of course, you can sweeten cranberry juice. If you buy unsweetened, you can sweeten it with D-mannose, which would be a nice way to double up on substances that will support urinary tract health. We also have a combination, the mannose cranberry caps, a dual action formula. And both of these possess properties to promote the maintenance of a clean waste stream, as we mentioned. The proanthocyanins are often called PACs, PACs. So you might see that terminology on our label or competitors' labels. They're simply talking about the active polyphenols that are in cranberry. So we combine both of these, the cranberry and mannose, and in one capsule, and recommended is take 1 or 2 capsules daily, twice daily. So 2 to 4 capsules daily would be the recommendation. There's also probiotic gut flora strains. Now, very important, how do you know which strains to use? You have to identify it by genetic techniques in order to know which strain you are getting. That strain should be acid and bile resistant, so it doesn't need enteric coating, in other words, and it should survive all the processing and sitting in a jar until it gets to the consumer and will still be effective. And you need to pick a strain with clinically proven health benefits. So matching up the health benefits to the strain, which is done when you're looking at human clinical trials. So in other words, when I'm showing you some of the strains, and you can look up the strain on PubMed, which is the National Library of published studies and things, you can look it up and see what studies use that strain and what the results were. So that's very important because it lets you qualify if the strains are going to be likely to be effective when you take them. Now, the way to identify the genetics of probiotics is using a riboprinter. We have had a riboprinter for a number of years, and we were the first supplement company, the manufacturer in the North America, to have their own riboprinter and be able to identify probiotics that we're purchasing from the growers, the fermenters. Now we're about to upgrade to a different version of this, a higher one that is not only faster, but lets us do multiple strains at the same time. So this is something that we're about to upgrade from a riboprinter, and we're already well advanced compared to most brands by even having one and using it for routine testing of our probiotics. So this is the woman's probiotic. It's got the Bifidobacterium lactis HN019. That's the same primary strain that's in our clinical GI probiotic, which is one I take twice a day, by the way. So it's really a wonderful strain, the HN019 strain of Bifidobacterium lactis, which has some benefits I'll show you in a minute. We've also got 2 strains that are shown to have benefits specifically for women's urinary tract health. The Lactobacillus acidophilus LA14 and the Lactobacillus rhamnosus, HN001. And whenever you're looking up a strain, you want the genus, you want the species, and you want the strain designation, which is these letters and numbers after the genus and species, the Latin binomial that's called, the first and last name of a substance or a plant. So we know that reproductive and urogenital health of a woman is highly dependent on microbes because they will enter, colonize, or be transiently passing through the vagina and that area of their body. So there's indigenous microbiota, specifically lactobacilli, play a role in maintaining healthy vaginal status. So lactobacilli, like Lactobacillus acidophilus, are major constituents and normal microbes, flora of the vaginal and urinary tract. They provide protection against colonization by undesirable microbes because they produce lactic acid and hydrogen peroxide to lower the pH, make it more acidic in the vagina, and a range between 3.8 and 4.5 that discourages undesirable microbes from growing there that will thrive in a higher pH. There's also a competitive exclusion thing where, if they're forming a colony, there's not necessarily an ecological niche for something else to jump in there and grow in that same environment. Oral intake of these two strains I mentioned, LA14 and HN001, increased vaginal colonization in 7 days. And what that means is that if you take an oral pill, you swallow a capsule, that about a week later, some of that is going to be in the vagina. There is some migration in the body where it's going to reach that area, and you don't have to use it as a suppository. And another benefit of taking probiotics such as lactobacillus is they enhance calcium bioavailability related to the lower pH associated with the production of these acids that I mentioned earlier. So the acidity, these are lactic acid bacteria is another term for them, that the acidity actually increases digestion of foods in the stomach. It increases the release of nutrients from those foods, and it acts as a sterilization of the intake that's coming in through the mouth, that it kind of sterilizes it by exposing it to strong acid in the stomach. But then the lactic acid bacteria can grow all the way in the small intestine up to the stomach because it's tolerant of acids, because it actually produces its own acids. Now, the pH of these is not as low as stomach acid, which could be as low as 1.0 on the pH scale, but certainly getting the pH down to in the 3s and 4s is going to help sterilize what's coming into the body and help liberate nutrients from the foods that you're eating as well. So kind of a double benefit there. And being able to absorb your minerals and calcium is a bonus. So the other strain in there I mentioned, the one that's in the clinical GI probiotic, is the HN019 strain of Bifidobacterium lactis. It improves gut transit time, which means that the time that elapses from when you eat your food to when you have a bowel movement. So that transit time, it tends to be improved when people have this strain in them. It tends to help with functional GI symptoms, gas and bloating, as well as transit time. And it's actually something that's been studied in a wide range of ages as well. So these two strains that are in here, along with the HN019 strain, colonize the vaginal tract, help maintain a healthy vaginal pH, even when taken orally. And the bifidobacteria strains can help support healthy immune system function in both pregnant and nursing women. What's interesting here is that there are very few studies on pregnant and nursing women. There's very little we can recommend to them because the studies simply are not done on that vulnerable population. But for something benign like probiotics, they have done some of these studies, and we know it is considered safe for pregnant and nursing women. It also supports healthy immune markers in breast milk for the baby and has potential to influence fetal immune parameters, in other words, passing through the placenta as well. And the last item I have for you today is Candida support. Candida support is a way to influence the GI tract as well. As you see from this formula, it contains caprylic acid, which is one of the MCT oil fatty acids, but it's only one of them. It's not the caprylic and capric acid, because capric acid's kind of contraindicated in this use. It has podarco, which is a South American tree bark. It has black walnut hull, and it has oregano oil powder. So oil of oregano basically in there as well. There's magnesium in there because the form we're using of caprylic acid is magnesium caprylate, which is actually the most common form of dry caprylic acid. It's dried on magnesium and bonded to magnesium as a chelate. So this is a Candida support formula, very popular formula, by the way. 2 a day with food is the recommendation, and supporting a healthy balance of intestinal flora. And we point out that Candida albicans is a naturally occurring yeast that typically resides in the gut as part of the normal gut flora. So we all have Candida in our gut. What we don't want is for it to overgrow. We don't want it to be more than a trace of what's in there and take over because we don't have enough of the healthy bacteria that the yeast can sometimes take over and overgrow. So that's where the problem lies. So Candida support is not meant to clear Candida albicans from the gut because you really can't get rid of it 100% and you don't want to or need to. But having a healthy balance of intestinal flora where it's a distinct minor player is important so it doesn't become a major growth factor in there because there's nothing else to grow and you don't have the right bacteria in there. That sometimes a fungal organism like this, which is perfectly safe and fine in tiny amounts, in larger amounts is not so pleasant to have in your body. So this helps keep the healthy balance of intestinal bacteria. We've included biotin, the B-complex vitamin, with it as well, which seems to have a role in the balance of intestinal microbes as well. So with that, I end my presentation on women's specialty formulas. I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this presentation, and I hope this is information that will help you.
All right. Thank you, Neil. Excellent information, as always, on women's health and support supplements. I want to take an opportunity to remind everyone that you will receive an automated link to the replay of today's presentation if you want to go back and review certain sections of it or the whole thing. I know I often have to do that as I take my notes, and I may have to go back and say, what did he say on that one? So anyways, watch your email for that. We will be meeting again in July, the third Thursday of the month in July, which is, that will be July 20th. So that will be our next webinar. We are not quite sure at this point what it will be, but watch your email and you will receive information on what the topic will be. So thank you again, Neil. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next month in July. Until then, have a great day. Have a great summer. Bye-bye, everyone.